I think often the word judge is misconstrued in Christian spaces. I do believe that we are meant to call each other to account.
Totally.
We're meant to, as other believers, we're meant to call each other up.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, can often be something that people use as a, oh, well, that church leader over there or that person that I don't know on the internet, I'm going to share my opinion about them. But I don't think it's meant to happen outside of relationship.
100%.
There is a beautiful quote. I think it originally came from Christian Bale. The idea of the quote is that
welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Couchman, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you today. I am so excited to be diving into the Word of God together today. Let's jump into the conversation.
Wonderful Kate. I love
wonderful
having you.
Ash. Oh, what a joy.
You were just telling me you're going to, well, one, you've been a social butterfly this week. You've been out and about.
So tired.
That's not normally
No.
you, is it?
No. Well,
You are social, but you normally will do it like on the weekends and
yes.
stuff. Hey?
And I've had 3 nights out in a row. The first 2 nights were after midnight. It was just at friends' places, having dinner, having chats, which is so valuable. And
It's so
I've
nice.
been looking for more of that, especially after my breakup. I'm like, I want to be out and seeing people.
Yeah.
I don't want to just another night of eating dinner alone at home. I have wonderful housemates, but we don't do food together, so it was been wonderful, but I'm really tired.
Exhausted.
But last night was a thing that I'm doing through an app called Time Left. And what it does is it connects you with 5 strangers and you in your area, and you just then go and have dinner with them at a restaurant, and they tell you where the restaurant is. And it's really, I'm using it as a challenge for myself just to get out and meet new people. But then last night I always pray, God, would you help me to be a blessing? Would you help me to offer acceptance, to be an encouragement to people? And it kind of felt like a small group actually, because they were all a little bit younger than me, whereas the previous one, they're similar age or older. And so at the end, I walked back to a car park with one of the girls, and she was like, Kate, you were so good. Thank you so much for being there. You're really, and I was like, oh, that's fine. I just want to help create the culture rather than just being like, no one's talking. Okay, I'm going to be awkward. I'm like, no, I'm going to ask questions and invite people in. So that was really great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've actually heard a couple of people doing that. I feel like I get nervous thinking about like going into a full room of strangers, but I think it's probably a really good skill to be able to, work on, to go, okay, can you sit at a table with strangers and make conversation? And
because it's not dating, so it's not like,
no
are they going to
pressure.
like me? Is it going to equal something? You never have to see them again if you don't want to. And so, as a Christian, I'm like, okay, well, how can I be a blessing?
I
And
love that.
You never know who you're going to meet. So, I'm doing that for probably for a few months. I think I'll go every Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I also feel like what you were talking about, where you just want to go be a blessing, you want to shed the light of Jesus, it's a lot of what our verse is about today. So let's jump into today's words to live by.
Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you.
It's such an interesting verse, hey, because I know for me, I've sometimes heard it done or seen it done where Christians will go, we have the right to judge almost. That's kind of the mentality I've seen some Christians have. And I think that there's a way about doing it and things, but I think in general, I remember, I don't know the scripture, I wish I could remember it, but people who don't have a faith, they're not held to the same account that you and I are held to as believers. And I think it's really, really important. And knowing that and learning that has helped give me such an empathy for people who don't have a faith when they go through hard times or they have situations that are based off poor decisions that they've made. And I know it's kind of a roundabout way to talk about judgment, but even in high school, I remember I'd watch some people in my spheres make terrible decisions. And as a Christian, I just wanted to go, you silly person, stop making terrible decisions. Like you almost want to judge them. You almost want to be like, I cannot believe you would make these choices. But when you realize that someone doesn't have a faith and they don't have the
worldview or the values or the boundaries and the guidelines that, hey, wanting to be more like Jesus
totally
gives us.
It's very different. What comes to mind when you read it?
I think it's often quite confused. And so there's a few thoughts. There's one, my dad used to say to me, don't judge people because you will end up doing the same thing. And this would happen to me all the time. I'd be like, oh, that person did that. I can't believe they lied about that. And then I would find myself in a couple of days later lying about something and going, oh, because I put myself as above them, looking at their behavior, I found myself in terms of behavior often doing the same thing. And it was an interesting perspective and sort of lesson, and it would happen again and again, like, oh, that driver doing that, and then, oh, I did that same thing, I forgot to indicate, and the person behind me. And so I think that's sort of a practical thing that often happens, that we're making quick assessments about someone's behavior, and then we open ourselves up to making those same decisions. It's a funny kind of thing.
It's interesting, isn't it? But I also think it comes down to, I think I've also had to deal with judgment a lot more when it comes to forgiveness. I think I have this real sense of justice, and I will get, and I'm trying to work on it, I will get frustrated and angry. And like if someone, if I feel like someone's mistreated me or misunderstood me or done something like that, I get so mad because I'm like, no, like you're wrong. Like how dare you think of being like that? And sometimes my thought pattern goes into almost more of a judgmental place of like, I cannot believe you would live your life like that. I cannot believe you would make those choices. But I think I've learned that like maybe, that forgiveness journey has kind of helped me to understand judgment, because Christ, when he dies on the cross, he forgives all of our sins. He doesn't, even when the thief next to him on the cross cries out to him, he's not calling out the things that he's done wrong. It's not judgment. He calls him to a higher place. And so it's an interesting thing to think about, to really like capture our thoughts when it comes to judgment and judging others and thinking about others.
Yeah. And this verse is all about call and response. Like if you do this and you judge at this measure, then that's how you will also be the measure for yourself. And so it's a call. It's not placing yourself higher. But I do say that I think often the word judge is misconstrued in Christian spaces. I do believe that we are meant to call each other to account. Totally. We're meant to, as other believers, we're meant to call each other up. Yeah. And that, I would say, can often be something that people use as that church leader over there or that person that I don't know on the internet, I'm going to share my opinion about them. But I don't think it's meant to happen outside of relationship.
100%.
There is a beautiful quote. I think it originally came from Christian Bale, and I heard a great interview with Tom Holland. And I think we may have spoken about this before, but in another week that we were on together. But the idea of the quote is that, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. And I think we're in this world of, it's so easy to very quickly offer our opinions about people, that in public, or, oh yeah, that person at church, this or that leader, or Charlie Kirk or Beyonce or Taylor Swift. We're constantly offering our opinions about people that we don't know, that we're not invested in, that we don't actually have a relationship with. So it's very easy to do that, and I think that's part of what it's saying. Like, don't do that. Don't just offer an opinion about someone that you don't have a connection with. The idea of judgment is that God is our judge, Christ is our redeemer, and that it's our job to call each other to account, as iron sharpens iron. If we see our brother or our sister, not a stranger, our brother or our sister that we're in relationship with, doing something, we say, hey, Ash, I noticed in that conversation you were speaking quite down about that person that I didn't know, and I just didn't think that was a great way to offer that opinion, because it colours how I view them. Can we talk about that?
It's so true, and I think you build the most authentic relationships when you can have that dialogue as well. I think, like, my closest friends, I think one of the reasons we're so close is we're willing and we allow each other to call us into account. And it's not because we're trying to judge each other. It's not because we're trying to say you're better or I'm better or whatever. It's just, if we notice something, it actually is biblical in the faith, in that relationship, to go, hey, is this a good idea? Like, should you be doing this? Should you be living this out? Even the other day, I had a friend, and just without even like really meaning to, I noticed that they had started saying like OMG, but like as in properly saying it. And it was an accident. Like, I know it wasn't like a deliberate thing, but it happened a few times. And I said to them, I love you, but have you noticed that you've blasphemed like multiple times or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, so sorry, didn't mean to. But it's not because it's judgment. It's not because they're then going to be offended by me. It's just a moment of going, hey, I love you. I've noticed this. This isn't probably the best thing for us to be doing.
Yeah.
And I know that's a very basic, simple, surface level example, but it's being able to have those open dialogues.
And actually, quite funny, as we were walking in here, Andy, our audio producer, comes out the door and said, oh, look there, it's classic Kate. And we were like, what is he talking about? It's because we'd had a conversation. He was listening to one of the shows that I do, and he noticed that I would say, oh, that's a classic track for every song. And it was it's kind of a funny thing, but I was like, I didn't realize that I did that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to actually be intentional now about finding different ways to describe, because it may not actually be a classic track, but it's just a word that I'm using.
Just default to it.
And so it's like, okay, it's all great feedback, and it was done in a funny way, and we have a relationship and a connection, and we're friends and we're co-workers, and so that's great. And I think that was a kind of a light thing, when you were talking about that. But the best ways that this happened, and I found in my experience, is when you say, hey, so I said to you, hey, Ash, if you ever notice me doing this kind of thing, or I'm doing something that you think doesn't really honor the Lord or other people, I really want you to call me on that.
Yeah.
That's the best
kind
of
the
thing.
Opening.
Because it's really hard to receive something that hasn't been invited.
Totally.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it if we are in relationship with them, but it is much easier. You're less on the defensive if you said, you know what, that's right, I did ask you to do that. Okay, that's hard to hear. You're right. Okay, I'm going to shift and change that.
Yeah, we had a pastor, as we wrap up the episode, we had a pastor say at a conference, he was talking about having hard conversations, and particularly in this kind of, vulnerable, close friends relationship. He said, start getting really good at asking the question, what's the most awkward thing you need to have a conversation with me about?
Mm-hmm.
And becoming so good at being open to feedback, open to awkward conversation, or open to being vulnerable and having someone call something out in your life. Because if we never allow that to happen, I actually think we become more judgmental, because we never learn to be humble enough to get someone else to speak into our lives.
Yeah. It's that thing of, what is it that you've wanted to say that you haven't felt comfortable to say? Is there anything in your romantic relationship, in your best friend, in your family, is there anything that you wanted to bring up with me that you haven't felt comfortable? I'm giving you that opportunity now. And that's sort of that check-in and that desire, hey, I want to grow, and I recognize that my growth will only come after impact and awareness of my blind spots. And it's never easy. Vulnerability is never easy.
No.
Realizing that you call every song a classic track, or that you take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
And it's often an unconscious thing that it's just thing that we say, or I didn't even realize that. That's how we have the opportunity to grow. And I think as believers, it's something we have to be really intentional about inviting that, and then going, okay, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to ask the question, hey, can you speak into my life? But also, I've noticed this. Can we have a chat about it?
Yeah. So good.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the podcast. I hope that it encouraged you, that it's helped you through, and that it helps to challenge you through the season of life that you're facing, uplift you if you're feeling down, and most of all, I pray that you're able to draw closer and closer to God. I'm so excited to keep diving into the Word of God with you. I pray you're able to find moments of joy.